Everton have been given a points deduction, meaning they start the season on FM on -6 points. So I have decided to take them over as manager for the next 10 seasons. But there's more to it than that, because I have 3 challenges to complete, starting with winning 3 FA Cups, which actually could be the hardest one to accomplish. The next is to buy a player for £100 million or more, which is so me and all the other Evertonians can stick our middle fingers up to financial fair play. The third and final challenge is to win the Premier League with Everton. Yeah, I know, in just 10 seasons. So I better get cracking then during season number 1 at my new job. Season 1 was harder than I thought. There's 0 transfer budget, and I'm joining a dressing room that has an abysmal atmosphere right now. So I'll have my work cut out this season, it seems. I had a look at the backroom staff and pretty much sacked everybody who was terrible, including the assistant manager, all of the scouts, hired a new technical director, hired loads of scouts, and I've even got a new assistant manager coming in the door who's way better. And although I took Sean Dyche's job, I'm still opting to use a 4-4-2 style with a defensive midfielder, because that's proper football. And ironically, our first game of the season was against Nottingham Forest, who also have a points deduction this season, and we beat them 2-0 with both our strikers getting the goals. And we actually started really well this season, winning 2 games out of our first 3 and only drawing to Bournemouth, which was an away game as well after they scored a penalty. And it means just after 3 games, we are finally, already, out of the relegation zone. Happy days. Maybe we spoke too soon though, as the next match, Leeds knocked us out of the EFL Cup 4-0 at Goodison Park. However, we did pull off mad results like beating Chelsea 2-1, followed by going to the Etihad and defeating Manchester City 2-1. However, when it came to the FA Cup, Chelsea knocked us out of the 5th round. And every time we're eliminated from the FA Cup, it narrows down our chances of completing our ultimate challenge of winning 3 of them. One thing we can be really positive about is how solid we have looked in the league though, and how many goals we are scoring, especially how many goals Dominic Calvert-Lewin is scoring. We finished the season scoring the 4th highest amount of goals in the league, and only conceding the 6th least amount of goals as well. And both of our strikers were in the top 3 goal scorers, chasing Erling Haaland for that golden boot, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring 31 goals this season, just 3 behind Erling Haaland, and Betel finishing in 3rd place with 19 goals. But ultimately, we finished the season in 8th place, and I am very happy with that. However, without that 6 points deduction, we would have been in the European spot, sat in 6th place, but that is still very positive. And if you're looking at our team on how we're going to improve next year, we lose Danjuma because he's only on loan, and you kind of see some weaknesses in and around the squad that maybe we have to think about. Of course, we need to now think about that right midfield position, but is James Tarkowski a good enough player to play at centre-back for us? Or should we be looking at somebody younger and maybe better in the future to go alongside Jared Branthwaite? Well, we've got a decent budget of nearly £50 million to go into season number 2 to make those changes. So after searching for a young centre-back option that wouldn't eat up our whole budget, I decided to bid for Beidou from Salzburg. And he's the first new name through the door for season number 2. I've got a right winger secure too. He cost a little bit more than I hoped, but welcome to Buonanni into the club from Nice for £32 million. A problem did occur though when Calvert-Lewin decided he didn't want to sign a new deal and has only got 1 year left on his current contract. So with Everton's money problems, I think I need to cash in on him now, and Real Madrid came in for what ended up being £60 million. I don't think I've mentioned how bad Everton's finances are, because on the face of it, it looks okay until you go to the debts and loans, and then it's like, oh dear, that's not good. And it's also persuaded me to sell Beto too, and try and sign players slightly younger before we run out of opportunities to cash in on them. But with both of those transfers going out, it allowed me to sign maybe 4 players out of that amount of money, including 2 strikers. So the 2 strikers we brought in is Retegui, the Italian striker from Genoa. £41 million is a lot of money, but he did score quite a lot of goals, and he's very much the same type of player. He's a good pressing forward with a bit of height, and he's good in the air, so I think that's a good signing to begin with. And then Vedat Mariki, I know I said I'd go for a younger talent, but we kind of run out of options, and the guy I was trying to go for didn't want to come. And I've got a bit of a soft spot for Mariki, but I've got a feeling that we can turn that around and possibly after a season maybe sell him again and then go for somebody younger or a younger target. So I did contradict myself slightly, but 3 more signings out of that money. Rodrigo Riquelme for £19 million. Good left winger or centre attacking midfielder that we picked up for just £19 million from Atletico Madrid. I think that's really good. He didn't play much last season. It's time to give him some game time and let him grow. Patrick Dorgu, probably my favourite signing out of the lot, for £10 million. He can play left midfield, which we're using right now, or his natural left back, and he's not an amazing left back, but he's really good at an attacking left back. He's only 19, still got a bit of potential. And then finally, Carlos Soler for £6.5 million. If I can't turn that over for some profit the next season, then I'm doing something wrong. And it was a good start to the new season for the new guys, as we win 3 games from 4 and sit in second place with a lot of strong contenders around us dropping points. And it ended up being an okay season. However, Arsenal knocked us out of the League Cup in the semi-final, while a Kobe Mainu extra time goal eliminated us from the quarter-final of the FA Cup. And we actually dropped from 8th place last season to 9th in the league this season, unfortunately, but there's lots to be positive about, including James Garner's development, growing into a top midfielder for us. And with our 2 new strikers, who might not have scored as many, but were in our top 3 performers this season. But that's 2 seasons down with no FA Cups out of 3, of course, no Premier Leagues, and our transfer budget is only £24 million with no wage, which means signing a player for £100 million is gonna need us to sell a lot of our players. I stayed true to my prediction and sold the £6 million Carlos Soler to Saudi Arabia for £36 million. And I found an absolute bargain in the third summer in the German striker Tresoldi for just £9 million off of Hanover, who has all the potential to be a top striker for us. Some big names and big contracts were released from the club, freeing up a lot of space, and we bring in Ferguson in midfield to fill in the gaps that we just lost. My final signing this year was Antonio Blanco from Alaves for just £16 million. Another very good midfielder who can play naturally in both positions that we're using, and I think we're looking stronger than what we did in that first season. Now, we've got a few players, obviously, that can go in different positions. I'd like to play Buonanni as much as we possibly can in there. I think he's the future, but overall, I'm really happy with this squad. But once again, it was Arsenal who knocked us out of the League Cup. And they went on to win the Premier League, as we were finishing in 6th place, ahead of both Chelsea and Manchester United. But unfortunately, it was Manchester United who also knocked us out of the FA Cup in the quarterfinals. Which means for the challenge, that's still no FA Cup, and now we've only got 7 years to win 3 of them. Tresoldi was our star man this season though, as the 21-year-old bagged himself 17 Premier League goals and managed to play in every single one of the games. And the finances are getting worse. £88 million in the red, and we've only got £11 million in the transfer budget for next season. However, we do have a new star striker joining in Joshua Zirkzee on a free transfer from Bologna. He is very good. At the start of Season 4, I noticed an incredible prospect from our under-18s who has been scoring a lot of goals in youth football. And Zirkzee ended up being one of 3 players who joined on free transfers from Italy, as we also brought in Kolpani and Samardzic too without spending a penny. And the only player we actually sold was Antonio Blanco, who moved to Saudi Arabia for £29 million, almost double what we paid for him. And he did play 34 games last year, but a lot of them was off the bench. I have also switched around the tactic from our 4-4-2, and I've moved basically the left winger into a shadow striker role, and I think this team has a better structure from it. I do like the 4-4-2 that we used, but I think we've got so many quality talents that can play that shadow striker role that would be silly not to use one. And it certainly paid off within our first season of European football in the Europa League, as we finished in 6th place, winning 5 of our games and only losing to Nice in the league phase. But look who we drew in the 5th round of the FA Cup. And the inevitable happened, and we lost 1-0. In the Premier League, we once again finished in 6th place, but you may notice we are playing Champions League football next year. And that's because this Everton team won the Europa League. Now, it's not one of our challenges, but it is definitely very much welcome. A 3-0 victory in the final against Fiorentina, and we had quite a good run there too. We had Fenerbahce in the semi-final. The quarter-final, we eliminated Dortmund in a really good two-legged contest, 4-3. In the round of 16, we knocked out Prague, and it just seemed to be every round we were putting up some numbers in goals as well. And the statistics was way better as well. 28 goals from Tresoldi, even Retigu got quite a lot. Xerxes, I'm a little disappointed with, but his average rating was quite high. Rodrigo Riquelme has really come into his own thanks to that shadow striker role and has developed quite nicely too. He is wanted by the clubs including Newcastle, and he's worth quite a bit of money. Speaking of which, we have £6 million in the transfer budget, and we still got to buy a player for 100 million. It was time for Dwight McNeil to leave this summer after failing to live up to the performances we needed and £54 million being offered. As well as Onana, who complained so much about not getting enough starts, even though he never really performed when he did. And we've brought in some really good youngsters with the money. Jovan Zivkovic, who's the first player from Austria, £13 million. He is very good as a striker, a young one as well. He's only 21, and he has 15 and a lot of the attributes that I like for them to have 15 in or be good in, and he likes to beat the offside trap. So straight away, that's a tick from me. But then we've got this man, Adrian Velasqueanu, who is a Romanian new gen, 19 years of age, plays right midfield or centre attacking midfield, which are two positions we are currently using, and he's decent and only costs 6.5 million. However, the big signing of the summer was Claudio Echeverri from Manchester City. He wasn't being used much, and I have him on the development list, but he might actually be playing a lot more games than what I anticipated. He looks quite good already, but we already know he has a fantastic potential and is nowhere near reaching that just yet. So for £43 million, this one's a bit of a stab into the future, but already 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 player of the match. And our side once again has a lot of strength in depth. We have the likes of Mikalenko, Riquelme, Xerxes, of course, Godfrey, Ferguson, Zivkovic, Holgate and Kolpani all on the bench, and all of them could go into the starting lineup and I wouldn't be worried about their performances. It was another semi-final loss in the League Cup this season to Brentford, but we did very well in the Champions League, only just missing out on the top 8 qualification. And we reached the quarter-final where we were knocked out by a very good Inter Milan side. But what about the FA Cup? We still need to win 3 of them. Well, how many of you guessed that we would be knocked out by Arsenal yet again, and this time in the 4th round? So that's 0 FA Cups in 5 years. We've got to win 3 in 5 of the next years. However, there is some positives because in the Premier League, we finished in 2nd place. Now, okay, we finished 20 points behind Liverpool, who ran away with the Premier League this season, only losing 1 game, but we still finished in 2nd and 10 points above Arsenal, who are in 3rd. I think that deserves a round of applause. That's not too bad at all. We still haven't accomplished any of the challenges from that. We still need to win the Premier League. We still need to win 3 FA Cups. And we still need to buy a player for £100 million. And we've now only got £3 million in the bank. So there is a chance that I might decide to cash in a couple of these players and try and bring in some of that transfer money to then spend £100 million to get one challenge out of the way, because the money seems to be getting worse and not better. So let's see what I can do in season number 6 then, while you press that subscribe button, because I know a lot of you haven't done so yet. Well, I found 2 signings that has given us a nice bit of cash. Lewis Ferguson has gone to Al Nassr for £46 million, and Joshua Xerxes, yes, coming off of a very good season after a pretty bad season, is now going to Manchester United for £62 million. And that leaves us with £104 million in the current transfer budget. However, I'm about to bring in Joseph Chatalo on a free transfer because I can't turn that down, and in a year or so time I can actually cash in on that. And well, that is challenge complete. We have signed a player for 100 million. In fact, it was 115 million, and it is Bichiabu, who is a phenomenal left-footed defender. I felt like Jared Brantford was good, he just wasn't getting to the level that I've seen him get to in other saves, and this is a man that I think is far exceeding what he is at the minute. He has that 18 strength, 17 for pace, great positioning and concentration. £115 million is a lot of money, but he's probably worth it, and it ticks off one of our challenges, so I'm okay with it. And so, with one challenge down, we now need to focus on the other two. It isn't a target of ours, but the League Cup run ended in just the 4th round on penalties to Southampton. But the Champions League was also incredibly surprising as we qualified comfortably from the league phase. And throughout the knockouts, we took out some big European names, including Manchester City in the quarterfinals, and finally fell to an incredible Real Madrid team in the semi-final. Our form in the Premier League did tail off at the end of the season because of our European run, and we ended the season sat in 6th place with no European football next season. Yet. And that's because we have an opportunity to get that through winning the FA Cup. But look who is in our way once again. This Arsenal team has literally been a thorn in our side, and Pep Guardiola, since he has been there, has been a nightmare to beat, and especially in the FA Cup. They've ended our run in the 5th round, the 4th round, quarterfinal, I don't know how many times, and this time we've got to face them in the final. But today was a different story, and we powered through the final like we were the dominant side in the country of the last 6 seasons, scoring 3 very impressive goals in an even more impressive performance, defeating Arsenal 3-0 at Wembley Stadium. And going on to lift the FA Cup, which now gives us hope to be able to complete the challenge of lifting 2 more in the next 4 seasons. Maybe this is the confidence we needed. What confidence doesn't buy you though is transfer budget, because we've only got £1 million in that, and an overall balance isn't looking too good either. So let's crack on with season number 7 with 0 money. With 0 transfer budget, I decided against selling players and attempting to go again with the same team. But we began picking up some awful injuries, including players being taken out for the rest of the season. One thing I failed to mention last season was the uprising of Harry Curry. Now, he had 31 appearances last year, but only 19 were starts, 12 were off the bench. He got 16 goals, a very high average rating. So, he's actually going to start as our starting striker this season, but we've changed tactic. Now, Retigu's injury has obviously put a bit of a dampener on situation, so we've had to revert the tactic to more midfielders instead of strikers, and it looks like Curry is going to be the number 1. I do feel sorry for Tresoldi because he has been amazing, but we now need to rely on a 1-striker formation. Arsenal got their revenge by knocking us out of the League Cup semi-final, but they did go on to lose to Spurs at Wembley. However, with 1 month left of the season, we are down in 5th place in the Premier League, but in 2 semi-finals, with Braga in our way of a Europa League final, and the Premier League leaders, Manchester United, who meet us in the semi-final of the FA Cup. But we somehow managed to pull off an extra time win against them to give us a chance to go back-to-back FA Cup wins. We also got to the final of the Europa League, overcoming Braga, but couldn't lift it again after Newcastle beat us on the night 2-0. It was a different story in the FA Cup though, in a Merseyside derby at Wembley. Back-to-back FA Cups, and this time it's against our biggest rivals, Liverpool. After extra time as well, 105th minute was the Echeverry goal, but we've done it. We've got 2 out of the 3 that we need. It's just the Premier League that I'm kind of worried about because we've sunk all the way down to 8th place. I mean, we still have European football next season. We've just won 2 out of 3 FA Cups. But there's no money in the budget. We are really struggling for finances. We are kind of stuck in that scenario because it's only getting worse. And this squad is great. I just don't know whether I can turn this team into title contenders, but I guess we'll just have to try our best. This summer, I really needed to freshen up the squad, so I sold 3 players who couldn't get into the first team for money I didn't expect to get for them in an attempt to replace them with smarter transfers. Like this Argentine midfielder that I picked up for less than £5 million. I also picked up a Ukrainian fullback that can play on both sides naturally because we lost the back at fullback Ben Godfrey due to his contract expiring. There was a lot of players who left on free contracts, and I also managed to pick up Sander Maas, who is a Dutch attacking midfielder who slots into the side after a £20 million move from Utrecht. But possibly our best signing this summer was a Brazilian striker by the name of Jose Elias, who could become a monster in the next couple of seasons for us after we met his nearly £19 million release clause. And because of that signing, I've decided to go back to the 2 up top formation, just slightly different to what we had before. This little position here, the centre midfield on attack, is now crucial because Adrian has become a bit of a beast in that centre midfield on attack role, and he could be the key for all of our attacking threats going forward. It kind of creates a bit of an overload up front, but Tresoldi is back in the lineup alongside Curry, and we've got Jose Elias coming off the bench. And so far it's treated us well. We've played against the champions twice. We beat them once 4-1 at the Community Shield, and we had 2 players sent off as well, and we drew against them in the league. It's a good start. Indeed it was, but still no League Cup win after Chelsea knocked us out of the 4th round. And we couldn't make it 3 in a row for FA Cups because Spurs eliminated us in the semi-final but lost to Man City. However, we have never been closer to completing the challenge of winning the Premier League, as this season we finished in 3rd place and only 5 points behind champions Liverpool. Once again though, we are European champions because we defeated Fiorentina in the final in Paris 3-1 with Harry Curry scoring 2 goals, Tresoldi scoring the other. We had a fantastic season in all things considered. I mean, we defeated Roma in the semi-final, Real Sociedad in the quarter-final. We had a good time. Let's face it, we had a great time. And we have £33 million in the transfer budget, which is fantastic. And that is because we didn't actually spend all of our money that we made last season, thanks to a lot of players leaving and the contracts being very high, which meant there was more money available for us. The finances are actually looking fairly healthy as we go into season number 9 with 2 challenges left, 1 more FA Cup, 1 Premier League title. Adding more money to our budget, I've cashed in on Joseph Chitalo for £38 million to Saudi Arabia, as well as Jared Branthwaite, who is also going to Saudi Arabia but for £52 million. But that means that both of our centre-backs are now leaving the club and we need to replace them. Well, some good news is that I brought in a 22-year-old Dexter Sneddon, who is an English centre-back, and he is phenomenal, from West Brom for £37 million. And I'm currently just waiting on a work permit to bring in Mariano Abrak from Argentina. Again, he's quite young, but he's a better centre-back than what we've just lost. And to be fair, we're picking him up for a really cheap cost too of just $15 million. And now that Mariano has joined the club, I can show you the other signings that we have made. Starting off with Jose Luis, who's a Spanish midfielder we've signed from Celta Vigo for just short of £10 million. An absolute bargain if you ask me. Caelan McKenna from Celtic, who's a goalkeeper, who's one of the youngest goalkeepers at the start of the game at Queen's Park. He's had a good career so far, and he joins us because Jordan Pickford has finally left the club. We've also brought in Fresnel Kayembe for £54 million. It's the most expensive signing that we have made so far, and I think he could be a James Garner replacement if we ever need it. And at the minute, we don't. James Garner is one of the only players left from the Everton side that we started off with, alongside Nathan Patterson. Finally, Antonio Raimondo, a free transfer, a good striker, an Italian striker too. And our team is looking very good for the start of this season, but there's still 1 month left of the transfer window. But we didn't need any more transfers, and we started the season beating PSG on penalties in the European Super Cup. And by New Year, the season looked hopeful as we have Manchester City in the League Cup semi-final, and that's the team we are also chasing for the Premier League too, as they sit 4 points ahead of us. We ended up winning the League Cup emphatically, defeating Burnley in the final 6-1. But a loss to Tottenham Hotspur in the 5th round of the FA Cup means we need to win it in the final year to complete that challenge. We only got as far as PSG in the Champions League as they knocked us out in the quarterfinals. But in terms of challenges, it was a massive season for us in the Premier League. This Everton team are champions of the Premier League by 10 points as well. Manchester City completely fell off a cliff. We finished 12 points above them, which means that was 16 points overhaul compared to where we were at the start of the new year. That final part of the season was crucial for us. We only lost a few amount of games across the whole season anyway, but we had won the league by this West Brom game. We were absolutely fantastic. You know what that means? We're going into season number 10 with 2 challenges crossed off. That's right, with 1 season to go, we need to win a 3rd and final FA Cup to complete all 3 challenges. And so in season 10, I began by selling Samardzic for £28 million to bump that transfer budget up. And I replaced him with a free transfer from Real Madrid while using the money that we made to bring in one of the best goalkeepers in the world to fill in our only real weakness. Because despite having very bad money troubles, I think we have built an incredible team here, well worthy of winning any competition we enter this season. And we only need 1 to complete our task in hand. And with a seasons of ups and downs ending with heartbreak in the semi-final of the Champions League, losing on penalties. However, it is back-to-back Premier Leagues as we jogged over the line 9 points clear in the end. But most importantly, we have reached the final of the FA Cup. The final game of the whole video determines whether we complete all 3 challenges or not. And would you believe it, but on the day of the final, Buonanni opens the scoring after just 17 minutes. However, Manchester City still have some big names knocking about, and one of them loves to score goals. Erling Haaland broke the hearts of all Everton fans, and my own included, as he scored a crucial brace, giving Manchester City the win. Guys, we got so close to winning that 3rd and final FA Cup, but Erling Haaland's goals prevented us. But I think we can still be happy with the rebuild that we have done with this Everton team across the 10 seasons. We've won a couple of FA Cups at least. We've won 2 back-to-back Premier Leagues, and we've also won 2 Europa Leagues as well. So we've got to be happy with that. The side that we've used is phenomenal. The top scorer this season is a homegrown talent, a striker by the name of Harry Curry, who has been absolutely fantastic. The save game file will be available to anybody who wants to download it on the channel memberships. Just press join down there underneath the video, or on patreon.com/MegaLukeGaming. I'll put it on there for everybody who is signed up for that. And if you did really enjoy this video, make sure you're subscribed and you check out this one, because Bayer Leverkusen for 10 seasons with very similar challenges. Go watch it right now.